At this point, if I don't fall asleep, it's not that bad. So I just saw The Crow. Let's talk about it. Directed by Rupert Sanders, stars Bill Skarsgård, FKA Twigs. Is that how you pronounce it? I've never heard of the young lady before this. So FKA Twigs? Let's get some basic information out the way. This is a remake of the 1994 film of the same name. The original starred Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee died on set. Tragically, they had to finish the film without him. The Crow is his legacy. So I think it's safe to say nobody wanted this remake. Nobody asked for it. Nobody was like itching and grinning for a The Crow remake. Like, no one wanted this. So everyone is coming in this at a disadvantage. People are already hoping, not just expecting you to fail, but hoping you fail. Now, I've seen The Crow once, and it was years ago. I intentionally did not rewatch the movie before seeing this because I wanted to judge this movie on its own. The Crow is a cult classic for sure, but let's be real, it's not a masterpiece. If it was some kind of masterpiece, I probably would have rewatched it just to see, okay, what kind of audacity are we working with here? But I think a lot of the themes that are happening here, the aesthetic or whatever, it's easy to reinterpret for a 2024 audience. But at the same time, it's 2024, and I feel like you have a lot of filmmakers who are just cowardly. Eric and Shelley are in love, but unfortunately Shelley's past catches up with her and they end up... Our villain, the one who is responsible for their demise, is not quite human, and his existence in the real world, and the above ground world with the living, has thrown things out of balance. So Eric, because he has such a pure love for Shelley, has been given an opportunity to come back, to not only avenge her death, but to restore balance. Now, two things can be true at once. Number one, I enjoyed that for the most part. Number two, it's not very good. This is a future comfort movie for me. Like, this is going to be one of the movies on my roster that I'm going to play to help me fall asleep. Not to say that it's so boring that I would fall asleep. Twister is on that roster. Mary Poppins is on that roster. But the pacing, and that's part of the downfall for this movie. There's a lot to talk about why this movie's bad. But the pacing, as bad as it is, moves a little bit like a lullaby, which is crazy because that's like the tattoo on his face. It moves a little bit like a lullaby. It's very slow, kind of dreary, and just tonally black, and then it gets very intense. So yeah, this would lull me to sleep in the best way. I don't even know where to start. All the things that are just wrong with this movie. There was so much potential. So much potential. Like, this could have been excellent. This could have been great. There was opportunity here. There's enough meat in the story and enough talent within these actors. Now, I don't know much about FKA Twigs, but I feel like just based on how everything else flowed, I feel like there's more in her than what we know. I feel like there was so much. There was so much extra and beauty that could have come out of this. But honestly, wrong director, wrong writers. So number one, the pacing. The plot just absolutely drags. It just I don't know how else to describe it. It's like the exposition was literally an hour long. And even with the plot just dragging, the character development here is so weak. We're really relying on just certain personality traits to kind of tell us who they are. But the problem with that is our director, he has a lot of talent at his fingertips, but didn't really know what to do with it. I mean, again, I don't know anything about this FKA Twigs, but just based on the direction of the rest of the actors, I feel like there's more in her. There's a lot of potential in her. He didn't know what to do with it. Bill Skarsgård is not new. Very talented man. Creatively talented. This is his genre. I mean, this is, action, leaning a little bit on the side of horror. This is his expertise. He's good at this. And yet, like, he should have knocked this out of the park. And yet, this is the weakest I have ever seen him. Like, how do you mess that up? Like, I mean, if there's a go-to guy for scary, there's your dude. Like, how do you mess that up? The poor direction was just so evident from the very beginning, not just in the acting, but also in the camera work. Because again, you have this young lady, FKA Twigs. I don't know much about her, but there's a scene where it's almost like she doesn't know what to do with her body or her feet. She's trying to pace, but can't quite figure it out. And we have this kind of long shot. We're at a distance where we can almost see the awkward indecision in her feet work. And it's not like the footwork of someone who's like in a panic, trying to figure out what their next move is, but the panic of an actor who doesn't quite know what the next step is. That should have been a close-up. That should not have been a long shot. I think if we had just focused more on her face in that particular scene, it wouldn't have looked so awkward. But that's just me. So yeah, the acting is just not that great, but I don't blame that on the actors at all. That's a director problem. Like, how do you get Pennywise in your grasp and not know what to do with him? What else was wrong with this movie? We could be here for days. I'm trying to figure out whether, our Eric Draven here was supposed to look awkward or they just didn't know how to frame him. Like, Bill Skarsgård is 6'4" and looks every inch of it, praise God. But I don't understand. I don't know. I don't know whether he was supposed to look awkward and out of place or if they just didn't know what to do with his body next to someone who was so much smaller than him. Even the way they dressed him, it just made him look lanky and awkward. The fact that he looked so big in the beginning, we didn't need to see him that big. There's a way you can take someone that tall and almost shrink them down, and then when it's time for them to look their full size, that's where wardrobe comes in. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out whether that was intentional or whether they just didn't know what to do with him. The dialogue was hella cringe as well. And I'm sure some people are going to come in and say, well, that's how it is in the comic books. I respect that. However, this is a film. This is not a comic book. Graphic novel. My apologies. I said this about It Ends With Us. When you're doing an adaptation, when you're going from one medium to the next, certain things have to change in order for them to make sense. Just because it makes sense in a graphic novel doesn't mean it's going to make sense in a film. And one of those things is the way dialogue is structured in graphic novels. If you're going to adapt a graphic novel, the best thing that you can do is to capture the artwork and recreate the artwork the best you can and try to make the dialogue flow with the artwork if that makes any sense. At least that's how I've seen it with some of the best graphic novel, comic adaptations that I've seen, where they focused a lot on recreating that artwork and then just kind of wove the story in between the panels. Now, while I have never read the graphic novel, I can't read graphic novels. They give me headaches. I imagine a lot of that stilted dialogue is probably straight from the source. It doesn't work in film. The dialogue did not work here. It was just very wooden, very dry. And again, you have a lot of talent here. Way too much talent for such a crappy script. But Savannah, didn't you say you enjoyed it? I sure did. And I'm going to tell you why. 3 reasons. Now, the first 2 reasons, and I'm pretty sure I said this about Bill Skarsgård's last movie, Boy Kills World. 2 things I can forgive a crappy movie for. 2 things. Number 1, eye candy, and number 2, carnage. That man is so damn pretty. I mean, just serving face for nearly 2 hours. Did I mention how tall he is? Whew. And the carnage. Now, reason 2 and reason 3 kind of go hand in hand. Now, y'all know me. I love carnage. I love unnecessary carnage. I love when it just grows to the point of just, why is this even here? I love that. But the problem with this movie is it's not as bloody as it should be. And I know that's a very weird thing to say, but it's just not. This could have been far more gruesome, should have been far more gruesome, because that's what we're here for, right? I mean, that's why I came, other than the eye candy. But that's where reason number 3 comes in. While that first hour and some change was just gag me with a spoon, this is so boring and a little dry. This is dragging. Can we pick it up? Can we get to the point? When is this going to get exciting? That last 45 minutes was so much fun. The carnage was carnaging, let me tell you. The weapon change is what gets me because, he comes back once and he gets a gun and he's shooting people, but he's shooting people at a distance and things don't quite work out and he has to go back, but then he comes back again and now we're at the point of no return. He has nothing left to lose. Now it's really personal and he has a sword. There's something about a sword or a knife that's just personal. And once he got to that point of no return, the last 45 minutes, this was fun. That was good. That should have been the tone for the entire movie. But also in some of the fight scenes, it was like the Steadicam operator was afraid to get into the mix. Final verdict, it's fun trash. It's not very good, but I enjoyed it. But the TikTok edits that I know are coming, ooh, I can't wait. If you know, you know.